Good afternoon, everyone. I think we can begin. My name is Jesse Ramsey, and I mentioned a little earlier, I am with the communications and training team for Workforce Program Referrals. I'm going to let my colleagues within the conference room introduce themselves, just so you're aware of who all is with us in the room.
Megan Hunt.
Christy Shin.
Hi, good afternoon. Keith Baker.
Good afternoon. Kevin Leiter.
Allie Heiser.
All right, thank you. So like I said, welcome to today's webinar for the Program Referrals Point of Contact Manager. Before we get into the system functionality, I'm actually going to turn it over to Keith Baker, the one of our assistant regional directors, and he's going to provide the answers to some of the questions such as why is the program referral process being changed, or enhanced rather, and what does this change mean for me?
Okay, thank you, Jesse. Okay, can we go back one? Okay, so as you may be aware, Labor and Industry received a Reemployment and System Integrations Grant from U.S. Department of Labor. This grant is actually a dislocated worker grant, but instead of the grant funding being used to support direct customer service, this particular grant was used for system enhancements. You may be aware of some of these enhancements from some of the previous releases. We kind of focused on 4 specific areas for the use of this grant. One is a dislocations dashboard that was released in October of 2018. The one you're probably most familiar with is the IEP ISS that was also released in October 2018. The third one is the reason that we're here today, a new and improved workforce program referral system. And then the 4th area that we're looking at for the RSI grant is to revamp, redo, and improve the ad hoc reporting environment. So those are the 4 areas of focus for the RSI grant. As far as what the benefits of making this change, you can see the 3 check marks in the bottom there. Easily communicate with other PA Career Link staff. As we go through, and if you attended the staff webinar earlier today, you'll know that with the new referral system, there's really 2 new types of referrals. There's an internal referral, which would be referring a customer from within your own office to another staff person in your same office. Another type of internal referral would be to refer somebody from your career link to a different career link. And then finally, an external referral, where your career link can refer a customer to an outside agency that you work with, for example, United Way. And you refer the person to United Way for, let's say, for example, fuel assistance, heating assistance. What this will do then is allow easy follow-up with the recipients of those referrals, and that therefore to better ensure that your participant needs are being met. And all these referrals and all these enhancements will take place within the CWDS system. So with the automated referral and delivery receipt, again, external referrals will be sent by way of an email that will take place, and communication will take place within CWDS. But the referral going to the external agency will happen by way of an email that the CWDS system sends. An internal referral, on the other hand, will show up and be communicated via a widget on your dashboard. Again, second point there, communication between the referral creator and recipients. I did kind of speak to that. External communications via email, internal communications via dashboard. But all these communications that take place will show up within the referral itself. You'll see as we go through and kind of demonstrate some stuff, there's 3 different tabs on the referral. There's a referral itself and the information contained therein. There's a communications tab, so any kind of communication that happens will be recorded. And then there's also an outcome tab where you can change the outcome and mark the referral as successful or not. And again, the final point there, the dashboard notifications, again, by way of your CWDS 2.0 case management dashboard. So the benefits of the new enhancement, just like the IEP, it helps to foster collaboration and improve service between CareerLink staff. And with this one now, local partnering agencies as well. It allows you to monitor the volume and nature of the services that you're sending and receiving from partner agencies. It'll help you establish and improve communication channels between, again, internal partners and external agencies. It'll help to enhance your outreach and recruitment for program services that may not have historically been identified for services. So we know that referrals are taking place today. We know it's happening. It's part of what you do every day. What we have now is a way to actually track that and record that and ultimately give you credit for the work that you've been doing. And ultimately then, the new referral system will enhance your case management and hopefully result in improved customer service and outcomes. And with that, I'll turn the presentation back over to Jesse.
Okay, the next slide includes an overview of the types of referrals. For you all, because you have been granted or maybe are going to be granted the new system role AP Program Referral POC Manager, this really pertains to the new referral types of internal referral and external referral. The other types exist today as part of CWDS, or at least for DHS. This is where case managers refer participants to their local county assistance office or COMPASS. And for the first two, the participant self-referral, that's where as part of the registration process for a participant, they are presented with a screen at the end of the registration process where they can refer themselves to one of the workforce programs or for OVR as well. And that covers the second type. So again, this training for you all is pertaining to internal referrals and external referrals. So Workforce Program Referral Point of Contact Manager. So what is this new role and what are the responsibilities? So for this new role, again, this is a system role. This is not meant to impede or change or alter your existing organizational kind of job and title and position. So this is really just for the system. And so the responsibilities, or rather the functions that this new manager system role can do includes the following. One, you have the ability to add or edit an agency, an external agency or organization. You also have the ability to make that specific agency or organization active or inactive. Please note this is only for external agencies or organizations, because the next one is manage office contacts. This is where you will have the ability to designate one or more staff to receive referrals from other workforce programs, either within your office or from another office. So again, managing office contacts, this is where the concept of active or inactive only pertains to external agencies and organizations. You simply, for managing office contacts, think about it this way: manage office contacts equals internal referrals. And that's where you either add or remove staff to a specific workforce program, which we will be reviewing. And finally, you have the ability to delete referrals created and sent by staff within the same local workforce development area. So at this point, we're going to review how to add and edit an external agency, and Christy is going to walk us through those steps.
Thanks, Jesse. So this is a high-level preview, if you will, of how to add or edit an external agency or organization. Immediately following this, we'll do a demonstration. But the Program Referral POC Manager is the individual who can add and edit contact information for an external agency or organization. And when we use the term external, we're saying that's any agency or organization that does not have access to complete tasks in CWDS. Each PA CareerLink office will manage their own POC list of external agencies and organizations. To add an external contact from the external point of contact list, they will simply press the orange button that says Add External Contact. A screen will show that allows them to enter all the that external agency's contact information. Once they save, they can add programs and activities, and they can associate contacts with those programs and activities. So let's take, yes, am I good? Okay, sorry. So we want to do a demonstration of how to add and edit an external agency from CWDS 2.0. So just like in our staff webinars, Fred Fleming is our program referral POC manager. He would like to add an external point of contact. To do this, Fred will press search and select referral POC list from the drop-down options. All contacts in Fred's respective PA CareerLink office will display. To add an external contact, he presses Add External Contact. A screen for the agency organization information will appear. On this screen, Fred will want to input all the required information for the agency organization he wants to add as an external contact. He's going to enter the agency organization name, their email, phone number, address, including city, state, and zip code, as well as county. I'll pause while that information is being added.
And one thing to note as we're demonstrating is that if you have a space at the end of the email address, the system will recognize that there's a space that shouldn't be there, and it'll tell you that it's not a valid format. So one other thing to note too is the agency phone number. The system will notify you if it's not a valid format. So we're just getting the right number of numbers here. And for the zip code, again, it'll take the 5-digit zip code.
Once all that information has been added, Fred will press Save and Add Program Activity. After selecting Save and Add Program Activity, Fred will be directed to the Program Activity Info tab. Here he can add specific details about this agency or organization's programs and activities. Fred presses Add Program and Activity. A pop-up appears, and Fred can select one or more reasons. For this demonstration, Fred will select Other Supportive Services and then select Save. For this demonstration, Fred will want to add a new contact to the program he just added. He will select Add Content and then enter the staff name and staff email. If Fred has a staff title and/or staff phone, he can also enter this information. For the purposes of this demonstration, Jonathan Hill will be the contact that we are adding. This is a fictitious name and email address that we are entering for the purposes of this demonstration. Fred will select Save, and then after adding the new contact under Other Supported Services, Fred will also want to add a service. If you want to search by service code, type, or description, you can do so by entering this information in the search bar and pressing search. If you know the service category, you can select this by pressing the down arrow to expand the drop-down options in the service category menu. In this demonstration, Fred will add services in 2 categories. Fred knows the service code he needs to add, so in the search bar, Fred types CLEVEL. After pressing search, Fred sees the service code and presses add to select this service. Next, Fred will select LX program eligibility from the service category drop-down options. Fred would like to add a second service. Oops. For this demonstration, he will scroll down the options to select economically disadvantaged by pressing the add button and then save to add both services. I just need to get economically disadvantaged. He presses add and then save. These are the services that will automatically be recorded when Jonathan Hill is added as a point of contact to the referral. When a referral is sent to Jonathan Hill, if there is a service added, once the referral is sent by a case manager, the system will automatically add that service to the participant's service record. Services that appear in the drop-down when sending a referral fall under the category of referred to supportive services. When you document the outcome for referrals sent from a labor exchange program or case to an external agency or organization, there will be a drop-down titled Labor Exchange Program Eligibility Services that allows staff to select a service to be automatically added to the participant's service record under the category of LX program eligibility. A document is being developed to support what I just described and will be shared on the online help center.
Just to reiterate what Christy just mentioned, because it's really important, if you attended the staff webinar earlier today, we mentioned that there are services that are automatically added based on whether the system has enough information. And those are what we would maybe refer to as default services, if you will. Here, what we've just done is Fred has actually designated which services could be selected when somebody sends a referral. So when they send a referral, it's referred to supportive services. When they document the outcome, it's only for a labor exchange program that this is going to be present. There's LX program eligibility services that could be selected. And so just to mention again, when you add services here on this screen, this means that you are giving staff the ability to select those services as part of the referral process. If they select them, they will either be automatically added as part to the service record for the participant, or if it's, for example, referred to supportive services for WIOA, that's where the default service, which you can't change, is WCS 12, and that's for adult and dislocated worker, and for youth, it's WYSO 9. So those are services that you can't change, but this functionality here is really, I would say, mainly for the labor exchange program.
Okay, so.
Oh yeah, one other thing to note is that when somebody sends a referral, they may actually be prompted with common measures if they select case status of eligible, for example, and it will, so just be aware that common measures may be presented during that process. I know that's a little off topic here from what we're presenting, but we just want to mention that in all of our webinars because that's important.
Thank you, Jesse. Each PA Career Link office is able to designate which staff members should receive internal referrals, for example, workforce program to workforce program, from within the same PA Career Link office or another PA Career Link office. Individuals with the Program Referral POC Manager role will have the ability to add and remove staff by aligning them with a specific program and activity. The Manage Office Contacts button, which is to the left of the orange button we just used, allows the POC Manager to add and remove internal contacts. After pressing that, they see the Associate Staff button, which allows the POC Manager to associate a staff member with the appropriate workforce program. The POC Manager can search for a staff member using the first name and last name fields, and then associate a staff member by pressing Add and then Save. We will view this through a demonstration. So to demonstrate how to manage office contacts, once again, I'll log into CWDS 2.0 as Program Referral POC Manager Fred Fleming. So since Fred is able to manage office and external contacts, from the Case Management left navigation menu, he presses Referral POC List. To add an internal contact, Fred will press Manage Office Contacts. Any pre-existing contacts information displays. Fred can scroll through the screen to view and add contact details in each category. For example, veterans. For this demonstration, Fred will press the plus associate staff button in the WIOA adult category. Fred can scroll down the contact list and view all staff associated with the PA Career Link Cumberland County office. In this pop-up, Fred can add an associate staff contact. For this demonstration, Fred will press the Add button to add Keith Baker. Keith Baker's name appears in the Staff Associated With section. To save this update, press Save. Next, Jesse is going to explain how to change the status of an agency or organization.
And actually, before we move on, I want to talk a little bit more about the managed office contacts. One question that came up earlier in the staff webinar is, well, what are the programs, the workforce programs? So let's quickly just review this list. If your office, based within the system, each office has an alignment of workforce programs, and some may have all of them, some may have less than all. And for Cumberland County, for example, system saying, yep, we have veterans, WIOA adult, dislocated worker, disaster grant. Scroll down, we'll also see out of school youth, in-school youth, and trade. Oh yeah, can't forget labor exchange. Can't forget labor exchange. So those are the programs that you can associate staff to. And again, that's within the system. Who you determine, we're going to cover in a couple minutes. All right, so let's actually go back to the slides.
Back to the top of the list there. Can we talk about the veterans?
We're going to cover that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so the next thing we're going to cover is making an agency organization active or inactive. So just to let you know where we're at here, we added an external agency, and then we identified who should receive internal referrals. Those are the two most important pieces of your role as the program referral POC manager. There are some exceptions, I would say, and so these exceptions are hopefully not as common, but we want you to be aware of the system functionality. So for the active and inactive status, this is where when you're on the referral POC list and you go to the very right side of that screen, you see this button, and if you hover over it, it says make active or make inactive. If the external agency is currently active, it will say make inactive. If it's currently inactive, it will say make inactive. And so all you have to do really is press that button and confirm that you want to make that status change. So let's actually go in and see how to do this in the system. And while we're getting back to the system, one thing to note too is you can also determine whether an agency is active or inactive by filtering on the POC status. So let's go to the referral POC list. And Fred wants to search for Carlisle Food Pantry. So in doing this, once he presses search, he sees there are two entries. Now, for this example, there are two entries, and both are active. So if he wants to make one of them inactive, he hovers over the button. And this first row, you can see that the email address is carlislefoodpantry@gmail.com.com. So that email is not going to get delivered because that is not a correct email address. So he wants to make this inactive. So he presses the button and says, yes, mark active or inactive. So we can go ahead and do that. Now what we see in the filter, the POC status, if we just filter on active, now we see there's only one listed, and that's the correct one. Now again, if you need to change the email address, you would simply just edit the contact to make that change to the email address. But let's assume there's some additional information that it's definitely just not the right agency. So now at this point, the next kind of exception, if you will, that we will review is deleting referrals. So you as the POC manager have the ability to delete referrals if the referral was created or sent by staff within your logged in office, which is part of the same local workforce development area. So let's actually go ahead and go back into the system and see what that looks like. And one thing to note is you cannot delete a closed status referral. So we will go to the referral search. We'll use the left navigation menu option because that is the quickest one to use. And in the search criteria, we are going to enter in, we're going to enter in a number, 573. And before we press search, let's assume that Fred is being informed by another case manager, Jeff Bloom, that a referral was sent to an organization that is no longer in business. And so Jeff informs Fred. Fred's the one that can delete the referral. And so he searches for the specific referral ID. And that's what 573 is. I think all of you are probably very accustomed to using participant ID and their name. This is a new search criterion that you can use, which is referral ID. And so that's probably the simplest thing to do is to give Fred the number. So Fred presses search, and he sees that Barry Allen received a referral. He presses on the referral, and once the referral information is displayed, he reviews the information and makes sure that this is the one that Jeff was explaining to him. And in reviewing it, he sees that, okay, staff is assigned to Jeff Bloom, and this was sent to the Carlisle Food Pantry. Let's say this was sent to the one that we made inactive, as an example. At this point, Fred then presses the delete referral button and confirms by saying, yes, delete. So now we've deleted that referral. So that is how referrals are deleted. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is tips for managing contacts. So for example, how can I resolve data discrepancies with external contacts? I think we just briefly mentioned how to do that. And how do I know if I can associate a staff member as a workforce program POC for internal referrals? So let's talk through these tips. Let's first talk about the external contacts. The first tip, or question rather, is I see a duplicate agency. How do I delete the duplicate? Well, first of all, we don't delete duplicates in the system. We make them inactive. In case, for example, they come back into business, or maybe there was some confusion and they are actually still in business. So if it originated from your office, then you can make it inactive. If the duplicate did not originate from your office, then you will want to work with the office that the external agency was added, or rather originated from. And we'll talk through that through a demonstration. Now, how do you know who to actually work with from the other office? One way to do that, because you could be connecting with offices all over the Commonwealth if they have a duplicate agency or organization, you can use the CWDS staff search in Legacy CWDS, And that's what the screenshots are showing you on the slide. And you'll want to specify the role. And so that appears also on the screen. And then of course any other information like county and office will help you identify who has that system role. So that's what you want to do to identify who to connect with from a different office. So the next slide, let's talk a little bit about managing office contacts. So this is for internal referrals. I can't find a staff member when attempting to associate them to a workforce program. So here are a couple tips on what may be going on. First tip, the question is the staff member affiliated with that same LWDA as the program referral POC manager? So let's say Jeff Bloom and Fred Fleming. If Jeff doesn't appear in the drop-down, the question would be, does Jeff have the same LWDA designated as Fred Fleming? So again, you can use the staff search to determine that. The second tip, does the staff member have an active CWDS account? This is something that you'll want to check to see if they are actively using the system. This could be due to not logging into CWDS for 30 days. If this happens, this is where you may want the staff person to be somebody else for a particular program. Maybe they don't access CWDS that often to receive internal referrals. The second kind of tip, if you will, is individuals appear in the list that don't work in my office. Okay, so this list comprises of individuals with the system role of AP Case Manager that are either affiliated with your LWDA or central office staff. So you may see central office staff in that list. Next one, can I associate WIOA staff to labor exchange, trade, or veterans program? So the tip is, while the system allows you to do so, please continue to mirror operational protocols where BWPO staff should be assigned to labor exchange, trade, or veterans program. WIOA staff should be associated with WIOA programs. And also, WIOA staff will have the B- as the beginning of their user ID. The second tip for that one specifically is related to veterans program. Please do not associate vet reps to the veterans program. Instead, please select a non-vet rep individual with an AP Case Manager role. This could result in an automatic service being recorded inappropriately if the vet rep is the associated staff. And finally, since I am a BWPO staff member and a system administrator, I have both a CWAPA login as well as a B-user login. Why don't I have the new AP Program Referral POC Manager role for both logins? So each of these logins has different roles and permissions. You may request a new role by contacting the staff access resource account listed on the CWDS homepage. And so now we're going to demonstrate one of those tips, which is around duplicate external agency. So let's go to the referral POC list, and Fred wants to enter in, let's assume that there are 2 Pennsylvania Job Corps, and he's trying to resolve this discrepancy. So he's going to enter in Pennsylvania Job. I'll explain why he doesn't add the Corps. And again, Pennsylvania Job Corps is a fictitious agency. It is not one of the 4 official Job Corps centers in Pennsylvania. And he presses search. So you can see there are a lot of entries that appear. Now again, this is test data, so we've been using this one quite a bit, but it gives you probably a little bit of a unrealistic preview into what that would look like. So let's make it realistic by selecting active as the POC status. So now this is more realistic, I think, is what you will experience. And you can see that core is spelled differently in both. And so that's why we only entered in Pennsylvania Job to search for it. So one of these he wants to make inactive. But here's the thing. If you filter on Cambria County, notice that there are 2 different offices, each one having one of these external contacts. So Cambria County is the one that has the Pennsylvania Job Corps, where core is spelled incorrectly. This could be a duplicate entry. It sure looks like it. And so what Fred will do is use that CWDS staff user search, identify the individuals that have that new role, and work with those individuals or individual to determine which of their entries should be made inactive. Okay, so that covers the tips portion of the webinar. I'm going to hand it back to Christy to talk briefly about our Change Champion Network and next steps before we get to Q&A.
Thanks, Jesse. Just like with IEP ISS enhancements, we have a Change Champion Network to support staff as we work through this enhancement. The Change Champion Network will help staff users have a smooth transition to the referral process. They are volunteers, and they're your point of contact for users at PA CareerLink locations. Some of you might actually be Change Champions. But just so everyone's aware, our PA CareerLink Change Champions for program referral enhancements engage in status calls with the L&I project team for the latest updates on the new changes. They act as a liaison between L&I and staff to alleviate questions and concerns. They relay staff user feedback to the L&I project team. They engage in post-implementation calls and support. And they act as a go-to for resources for staff in their assigned offices. If you are interested in becoming a Change Champion, feel free to mention that in the Q&A, and we can pass on your name and information. You'll see the list of Change Champions on your screen that are currently signed up. Just be aware that you don't have to memorize this list. All this information will be available to you in the Online Help Center. And additionally, in the Online Help Center, we have a lot of next steps that will help support this enhancement. Okay.
So in terms of next steps, since the system is live, this is really important for you all because here's a prime example. We received an email this morning that somebody said, trying to send a referral to out-of-school youth, but there's nobody to select. So this is where we go back to the managed office contacts. It is extremely important that you have at least one person identified as an associated staff for every program within your office. Otherwise, staff can't send a referral, an internal referral. So that's really important to note. Please look at that, log in, please do that. Review your external agencies and organizations. There may be some already in the system for you. We had some data set up. Please note that some of the data was not uploaded into the system prior to go live. That was probably, could be due to multiple offices wanting that same agency, and really it's the external agency really needs to be added once, and so there's kind of a, an office was designated as the main office for that point of contact based on locality. And it also could have been that enough data wasn't provided to add the information into the system. So if you don't see them in the system, go ahead and add that external partnering agency. And back to the internal contacts, please add at least one person. You may want to add a second one as a backup. So the last thing I'll note on this slide is that during our post-implementation support, please work with your Change Champions. I know several of you are Change Champions, but please work with your Change Champions to ask additional questions, especially if we're not able to address them today during today's webinar. All right, so what resources are available? We will be uploading resources in an incremental fashion to the Online Help Center. The first set of materials will be 5 quick reference guides. These are very similar to what we provided for the IEP. And for you all, there will be 2 specifically that will benefit you, which are managing office contacts and managing external contacts. We will also have 2 simulations. Again, there will be one specifically for you all, which is managing office and external contacts, and 2 webinar recordings. This session, one of the 2 sessions, this being one of them, will be recorded and posted to the Online Help Center. It'll be a link in a document that takes you to YouTube, similar to what we did for IEP and the ISS. And the next slide is just showing you where the list of training materials will be once they're uploaded into the system. Now we're going to spend the remainder of the time with questions and answers. So I am going to review some of these questions and we'll be talking through them. The first question is, when adding an external agency, will the agency be registered by county or zip code to that particular office? So the answer is they won't necessarily be registered by county or zip code. Think of it as if you add them under Cumberland County, if you're logged in as Cumberland County, it will then be, if you want to use the term registered, it'll be related or registered to that specific CareerLink office. So think of it more around who adds it and how they're logged in. If they're logged in under Cumberland County, then that means it's being added to that office. It's not based on county or zip code. I know a lot of system functionality does rely on county and zip code. So that's a good question. As we are reviewing the question and answers, we will try to get some polling questions up, so we'll let you know when those are live. It will be a couple minutes. So please go ahead and answer those questions. One other question we have here is, if an external agency crosses multiple CareerLink offices and workforce areas, should they have a single listing with contacts, or should they have a listing for each PAC, PA CareerLink or workforce area? So I'm actually going to let Keith answer that, unless you want me to take a stab at it. I'll take a stab at it. So the whole goal here is to really only have one agency or organization by physical address. So for example, what you'll see in the system is that there are several ARPs, as an example, or United Ways, and some of them have physical addresses that are different than each other. And so you can't necessarily, have one United Way with multiple locations. That's not how it's currently designed. But what you'll notice too is some of the ARPs, for example, they'll have like a hyphen and then it'll say ARP-Harrisburg. That's one way you could do that, but the goal and the intent of this is really to have one main agency or organization added. And so it does give you the flexibility to add different organizations by location. But what I'll say is, for example, Pittsburgh Job Corps Center, there may be several contacts that are added to that same external agency or organization. So if you have a contact that is different than everyone else that is listed in the system, even if I'm in Cumberland County and I believe it's Alakiski is the one that added Pittsburgh Job Corps Center, then if I look at their contacts, which I can do with the new system role, you can either add the contact yourself or work with the program referral POC manager from that office to add that specific contact if you want. So another question, will the data submitted prior to the go live date be added, or do we need to add it manually? So I think I actually just covered that. We did have around 380 agencies. I think you all, I don't have access to it, but you all have access to see how many external POCs currently exist in the system. And so there's a number on the external POC list. So you could probably let me know how many there are, but there should be 380, unless individuals have added more since go live last Friday. And again, if you don't see it there, please, you will need to manually add it to your to the address book or the POC list. Are there internal contacts reflected for each CareerLink at this time, or will they need to be added by the referral POC manager? Good question. We covered that just a little bit ago. Most CareerLink offices, I'll say, designated an individual for each program. If you have additional programs that do not have a person designated, I would highly encourage you to do so at the earliest convenience for you. Again, you will want each program to have a designated person or persons. So that's really important.
Yeah, I would, excuse me, I'd really highly recommend that each of you go in and do the search. Excuse me, do the search, the external search and the internal search, and see what currently is listed for your office. Like Jesse said, we did get a good response back with the spreadsheets that we sent out, but for a number of different reasons, not every single row in the spreadsheet was able to get uploaded prior to go live. So again, it's a good idea to just to double check and make sure what is currently listed for your office.
And I do see, thanks for informing me. I think some of you have said that there are 386 agencies or organizations added.
Very good.
So that's good. People are going in and using it. One other question, will we be getting the slide deck for reference? Absolutely. That will also be posted to the online help center. And so again, all the materials we posted there, we will stay in communication to notify you of when those have been posted. So at this point, I think the polling has closed. We are a minute over. Do we have any more questions? We do not have any more questions. So I think this is good timing to thank you all for your willingness to take on the new system role of Program Referral POC Manager. Please continue to use the functionality. Encourage your colleagues and your staff to use the new functionality, especially in relation to the IEP and the ISS. The main point of this, one of the main points, is for the referrals to be sent to another workforce program or external agency, so that when you identify barriers to employment, for example, the referrals is a way to hopefully identify ways to help participants and clients or customers to overcome those barriers. So that is one of the main important points of the workforce program referrals. So at this point, if you have any questions that were not added, we will feel free to do so for the next couple minutes. We'll keep the Q&A open for another, say, 5 minutes, and feel free to add the questions. You can also send the questions to the training resource account, which is the resource account that sent the webinar invitation to you. The last thing I'll mention is please work with your change champions to relay questions that you're hearing or that you have to us. We have calls scheduled with those individuals twice a week to get the questions for the next several weeks. So again, thank you for attending, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.